Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, November 28th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, today we have the gamut, we have the whole spectrum of Marian feasts. We're just two things today, two major events, but they just take from early Christianity, early devotion to Our Lady in England and Europe, and then we have a more recent one in Africa. So today is the celebration of Our Lady of Walsingham in England. Now, the shrine of Our Lady of Walsingham dates back to 1061, when, according to the text of the Pinson Ballad, which dates from 1485, Richelieu de Févachet prayed in order to undertake some special work to honor Our Lady. And so the ballad recalls that Our Lady led Richelieu in spirit to Nazareth and showed her the house where the angel greeted her, right? So the Annunciation. "Look, daughter," said Our Lady, "take the measurements of this house and erect another one like it in Walsingham, dedicated to praising and honoring me. All who come there shall find help in their need. It shall be a perpetual memorial to the great joy of the Annunciation, ground and origin of all my joys, and the root of humanity's gracious redemption. This came about through Gabriel's message that I would be a mother through my humility and conceive God's Son in virginity." Right? So this Lady Richelieu was a holy woman. She loved Our Lady very much. She wanted to know how to honor her. And then what happened? She has this vision, right? But she's not a visionary like the children in Lourdes or Fatima. It was this, in response to her prayer, she received this model, right? And so the model of the Holy House was to be built in Walsingham, right? We really don't know too much about the beginning of this, devotion or how it was built, but we do know that the Augustinian canons built a priory around 1150 because there's a papal approval for it, and that Walsingham would become one of the greatest shrines in medieval Christendom. But what happened? Well, in 1538, the Reformation caused the property to be seized, right? It was taken over by the king. The famous statue of Our Lady of Walsingham was burnt, right? That original shrine has nothing left. There's literally nothing left of it, right? And after the destruction of the shrine and during the persecution of Christians, it ceased to be a place of pilgrimage. It wasn't until the Catholic emancipation in 1829, so basically 3 centuries later, that public expressions of faith were allowed. In 1896, Charlotte Pearson Boyd purchased the 14th century chapel. It was one of the last wayside chapels en route to Walsingham, right? And she restored it for Catholic use, right? An interesting fact, actually, when Pope St. John Paul II went to go visit Walsingham, they actually took the chapel, right? It was taken to Wembley Stadium and carried around the stadium prior to the papal mass, right? It gives you an idea of how small it is, right? And again, like the Slipper Chapel, as it's called, has been declared the national shrine of Our Lady for Roman Catholics in England, right? And again, it's not the original shrine of Our Lady of Walsingham, that's been destroyed, but nonetheless, it's now a major pilgrimage site. It is the national shrine for Our Lady in England. Now, we jump ahead to more recent times in 1981, and we're taken to Kibeho, Rwanda, because today marks the first and also the last day of Our Lady's apparitions at Kibeho, right? The first apparition took place on Saturday, November 28th, 1981, and the last apparition took place November 28th, but 8 years later, 1989, right? So that first apparition took place to a young student in the College of Kibeho, Alphonsine Mumurbeke. Now, she was in the refectory cleaning up after lunch. And all of a sudden, just out of the blue, boom, she heard a voice say, "Child." And then all around, she saw just a cloud, and standing in the cloud was a beautiful lady. And Alphonsine asked her, "Who are you, my lady?" And the lady said, "I am the mother of the Word," right? Now, Alphonsine was not the only visionary. There were actually other students who were chosen to help give, to be instruments of Our Lady, but actually really to give credibility to Alphonsine's testimony, right? Because Alphonsine was known as Alphonsine from Gisaka, which was a region known for practicing magic, right? So Alphonsine asked Our Lady to respond because everybody was saying, like, well, she's just, it's magic, black magic. And she asked her to help by appearing to others, right? And so, yes, that's what happened, right? Again, there was a part of the message that Our Lady revealed in Clairvaux was the importance of praying the rosary, right? And today, as of today, Our Lady of Clairvaux remains the only Vatican-approved Marian apparition in the whole of Africa, right? And I think there's an important message to one of the visionaries. Our Lady said that she needed to teach others to pray the rosary. And she said, "Mother, you want me to teach the whole world the Seven Sorrows Rosary? I don't even have the money to go to the next city. How do you expect me to teach the whole world?" And Our Lady replied, "My child, my grace can do all things. You just do your part. I have many children in the world. You do your part, and the grace of God will take it to the next person." For today's reading from True Devotion to Mary by Saint Louis de Montfort, we continue with part 2 on this most excellent devotion to our Blessed Lady, or the perfect consecration to Jesus through Mary. And today we'll start with section 3, entitled "The Wonderful Effects which this devotion produces in the soul which is faithful to it." So we started with point 213. My dear brother, or my dear sister, be sure that if you are faithful to the interior and exterior practices of this devotion, which I will point out, the following effects will take place in your soul. So the very important section, he's talking about what fruits do we get from devoting ourselves, for consecrating ourselves to Mary, so that we can give ourselves to Jesus. First, by the light which the Holy Ghost will give you by his dear spouse, Mary, you will understand your own evil, your corruption, and your incapacity for anything good, which is not God's free gift to us, either as the author of nature or of grace. In consequence of this knowledge, you will despise yourself. You will only think of yourself with horror. You will regard yourself as a snail that spoils everything with its slime, or a toad that poisons everything with its venom, or as a spiteful serpent, only seeking to deceive. In other words, the humble Mary will communicate to you a portion of her profound humility, which will make you despise yourself, despise nobody else, but love to be despised yourself. Okay, so again, we have to interpret that in the right way. It's not that, Jesus wants us to feel miserable, but it is true that, like St. Paul says, if we have any good, it comes from God. And so this helps us to recognize our weakness, our littleness, and that we really, really need Mary's help and intercession to be good, to do the right thing, right? Without grace, we are completely useless and helpless. And so we need to have recourse to Mary, who is the source of these graces, as the mediatrix, or the one who is the channel through whom Jesus gives us these graces. In 2:14, we have now the second effect. Our Blessed Lady will also give you a portion of her faith, which was the greatest of all faiths that were ever on earth, greater than the faith of all the patriarchs, prophets, apostles, and saints put together. Now that she is reigning in heaven, she no longer has this faith, since she sees all things clearly in God by the light of glory. Right? So that's a good point too, right? Because faith is, belief in what is not seen, and she sees God face to face. So obviously she doesn't need the virtue of faith anymore. Nevertheless, St. Louis de Montfort continues, with the consent of the Most High, in entering into glory she has not lost her faith. She has kept it, in order that she might keep it in the church militant for her faithful servants. The more, then, you gain the favor of that august princess and faithful virgin, the more you will go by the pure faith in all your conduct, a pure faith which will make you hardly care at all about the sensible and the extraordinary, a lively faith animated by charity, which will enable you to perform all your actions from the motive of pure love, a faith firm and immovable as a rock, through which you will rest quiet and constant in the midst of storms and hurricanes, a faith active and piercing, which, like a mysterious passkey, will give you entrance into all the mysteries of Jesus, into the last ends of man, and to the heart of God himself. A courageous faith, which will enable you to understand and carry out without hesitation great things for God and for the salvation of souls. Lastly, a faith which will be your blazing torch, your divine life, your hidden treasure of divine wisdom, and your omnipotent arm, which you will use to enlighten those who are in darkness of the shadow of death, to inflame those who are lukewarm, and who have need of a heated gold of charity, to give life to those who are dead in sin, to teach and overthrow, by your meek and powerful words, the hearts of marble and the cedars of Lebanon, and finally, to resist the devil and all the enemies of salvation.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed our Marian podcast. As St. John Paul II teaches us, from Mary we learn to love Christ, her Son, the Son of God. Through her intercession, may we grow ever closer to Him. We encourage you to share this with a loved one or friend and help spread our devotion to Mary. Thank you, and God bless.